I can edit out anything. So, okay. Yeah.
You want me to go through these questions?
Or yeah, I guess you
Okay,
can.
I can.
Well, can I start off by
Sure.
asking like what services the program offers?
Okay. Um, this is Catholic Charities, which is part of the Archdiocese of San Antonio. It's a separate nonprofit. It's an agency that provides over 40 different social service programs. So our particular program is legal services. We have attorneys, we have 6 on staff that provide services in immigration, non-immigration, protective orders. We have another department in the agency that provides wills, powers of attorney, and guardianship. So that's the legal program. We have a program that's a family sufficiency program that has food, that provides rental assistance, electrical assistance, clothing. We have an after-school care program. We have a nursing program. We have a refugee program that helps refugees with the resettlement. So there are a wide range of social services that the agency provides. We also have St. Peter, St. Joseph, a children's home. There's also senior services. It provides volunteer services for seniors to get involved. And so we have counseling. There's also a counseling program. So there's over 40 different programs. Each program has a director that manages that program and gets their own funding through grants.
Okay.
And ours is the legal service program.
Okay, that's another question I was gonna ask. It's about funding. So it's just grants.
Well, every program has a different source of funding. And so every program usually, or we have a grant person in the agency that helps apply for different grants, federal, local, state grants, private grants. Some do fundraisers. So every program is really responsible for doing their own fundraising and their own funding. The Archdiocese provides a little bit of funding, but not a whole lot. And so, like our legal program, we have 7 different funding sources. We have a federal grant, a state, and a local, and then we also charge for our services. So people can come and they pay for a lawyer. They don't pay as much as like in the private world. We do offer reduced rate and sliding fee, but that's part of our funding also is we charge people for services.
And it's income based.
It's income based, yes.
Okay. Okay. So, did you grow up in San Antonio?
I did.
Okay.
I grew up in San Antonio. I was born and raised here, so.
Okay. So, if you don't mind, could you tell me like a little bit of like, did you ever use any of the services or? How
No,
was it, like?
I didn't. Both my parents were school principals, but they actually were principals in the downtown area, and so, in fact, really down the street from where we're located. But we didn't really, I didn't really grow up in the inner city area.
Okay.
There are a lot of people that have, and they're still here, but it's kind of changed over the years. But I did not personally avail myself of these services.
Okay. Did you ever like help out or anything with the?
Yeah, well, yes. I mean, there was always a push to try to help this area because it was a low-income area. We're right in the west side of San Antonio, and so it's demographically it's a Hispanic mostly community that we're in. It's usually low income. Many people are at the poverty level, and so the need for services is really large in this area. There are a lot of homeless in this area. There are a lot of people that really need the services around here because it is considered a low income area.
Okay. Yeah, that's going into some of the questions right there, like housing.
Housing is probably the biggest problem that I think this community has because it's not affordable. good housing, safe housing is very expensive. So people that are at the poverty level or find themselves with a catastrophic situation, they lose their job, they get an illness, it's very easy for them to become homeless. There is Section 8 housing, which is federally funded, subsidized housing, but that's very difficult to get, and there's a long waiting list, and then they have priorities. So that's why there are a lot of families, not just single men and women, but there are a lot of families that find themselves homeless in this area.
Okay. And let me see. So yeah, we already talked about the typical client that you serve, kind of.
Our program is, because we are immigration, we do help undocumented individuals who are seeking immigration status. So many of them are working, many of them are at the poverty level. A lot of the people that come to us are also not necessarily poor, but they're kind of low middle class. They do have a job, they have a steady job, but their wages are not enough that they can afford an attorney. They're living paycheck to paycheck, barely to make their minimum needs. So that makes it difficult. But so that helps some of the people that we help. That some of the population is that they're not all completely poor. Some are middle class. They just can't afford it. The full cost of our services.
And that's something we're discussing in the council we're together, is that they haven't really increased the poverty levels for years. And that's a problem.
Well, and the cost of living. San Antonio is a pretty good location because it's got a pretty reasonable poverty level. I mean, cost of living. So you can, if you have a good job and you make a decent wage, and the wages are not all minimum wage, you can get housing and get by. But there's still a lot of people in our community that cannot find employment. They don't have job skills. It's just a struggle. It's a struggle for
them. And like you said, in a safe area, because I was gonna try to interview someone in the King William area, or King William, but they didn't want to. But just to compare the difference, between areas.
Well, there's been a large infusion of funds in the downtown area to revitalize it, and I would say over the last 10 years, the downtown area of San Antonio, inner city, really metro downtown, has really improved. Has really improved the downtown area because you've had a lot of investors invest in tearing down buildings, building high rises and condos. We have a brand new HEB right downtown, and that's connected to the King William area. You have the Riverwalk, because San Antonio is a big tourist area. You've got the convention center that got a complete makeover, and condos and apartments and are coming up in the inner city, and that's really helped the economy. But it hasn't helped a lot the plight of people that are still poor. It's like they're being pushed a little bit further out. Our facility is a little bit on the outside. So if you just go maybe 1 mile, you'll find a high-rise condominium that charges, that you'd have to pay over $100,000 to buy. And if you come a mile over here, you've got a house that's barely valued at $10,000 that has no plumbing and is leaking. And so, there's still that difference there. But they've put a lot of money into this area. They've paved the streets, they've cleaned it up, they built a park down the street. So they're really trying to help build this area. The city is.
Yeah. So, I don't know, where
Did you want me to get into this? I mean, I'm kind of covering it all just as we're talking. It asks here a lot about resources and different organizations in the community. I would say the San Antonio Food Bank that provides food to different organizations. Haven for Hope is a homeless shelter that's just down the street. I think Haven for Hope might be faith-based, I'm not sure. There is a Baptist, Methodist, and then there's a Presbyterian church that offers some assistance. I would say Catholic Charities is probably the main faith-based organization in the downtown area because of our location here. We have a food pantry that people can come and just get food here, but also at the different churches, because the Catholic Church, there are a lot of them in the downtown area, and they make themselves available to people in the community for assistance, and then they refer people to us. So I would say that Catholic Charities is probably the main faith-based nonprofit. The city also has provides funding to us, but to other organizations such as United Way organizations, some other nonprofits in the area to help provide services, housing, food, counseling, job training, things of that nature. So while the city doesn't necessarily run an organization, they provide funding to different organizations. There are city parks and recreation, there's a natatorium, the swimming pool is just right across the street. And so the city doesn't really have any main organizations, but they do provide funding, and we get funding from the city to help out. It's hard when you have government can't really run a lot of social programs, so they do look to nonprofits to help provide some of those social services in the area.
And then a lot of that falls on the state, and then the city also. I know there's what would you like to see change, but I want to leave that towards the end.
Okay.
But you're covering a lot.
Yeah, I kind of got the gist of your questions. Are you particularly looking at organizations that provide a particular type of service,
No,
or just any
in general.
nonprofit? Any nonprofit? Okay.
I just recently found out about the USO.
Oh yes, that's down the street, and there's a big increase to provide services for veterans. You know, because we find a lot of veterans are homeless. You know, being in this area of town and providing services to low income and seeing what the need is, and there's a lot of holes of services that the city is trying and to provide, but there's a big need for mental health services. You know, because mental health issues and treatment for people with mental illness is not the best. Just because of funding, because some people don't avail themselves of services, some people can't afford services, they don't have insurance, and many of those people end up homeless on the street. Well, then ending up homeless on the street, then they need food, then they need shelter, and so it just causes a ripple effect of services that are needed just to address, you know, the mental health issues. So that seems to be one of the growing needs, is to address mental health, and also homelessness for people that find themselves in catastrophic situations. They lost their job, they lost housing, and some people they just need help for a month or two. You know, they don't need continual help. They just need to get back on their feet, to not get evicted for a month or two, get their job. And that's kind of something our organization tries is our goal is self-sufficiency. You know, you don't just give people free things, you help them. Do they need to find work? How can they get back on their feet? Do they need counseling to deal with emotional or psychological issues? And so it's providing the service that's hopefully going to lead them to self-sufficiency. And that is the core of what public funding is trying to do. The city is, the county is, the state is. They're looking for organizations that are going to help people move towards self-sufficiency. Instead of just giving them free things, free food all the time, it's like, no, we're not going to just give it to you all the time. We're going to provide counseling. What is it that's gotten you here? What can we do to fix it so you don't have to come back?
Exactly.
And that's where organizations are looking to, and that's where funding is going, and private funding also. A lot of large corporations in the San Antonio area and in the nation are looking for organizations to say, we want to help our community, we want to improve the poverty level, and we want to improve services to women and children and victims, but we also want to know what are we doing besides just giving you a blank check. So that's kind of the issue in working in nonprofit and social services.
Yeah, and I imagine the grants have to be, they have the rules. that you have
Yeah,
to
they're
follow.
monitored and they're audited. If you say you're going to provide this service, we're going to help 100 people, and this person's salary is going to be. They want to know, who are you paying? Who are the 100 people you served? How did it help? What is the outcome? If you didn't help 100, why not? If you're helping more, then we say we need more money to help more. But yes, we have to be very accountable to all our funders to say, you're entrusting us with your money to provide this service, and here is a result of the funds that you've given us.
Yeah. So I was under a grant also, and then they had to reapply, but we didn't get the grant again. So
There's a lot of competition out there for agencies and funding. So that's why you have to look in having a nonprofit or in these public agencies. You have to look at what service you're providing that's unique. If there are, 10 homeless shelters, there aren't. But if there's 10 homeless shelters, it's like we need funding to start number 11. Or we need one, we don't have anything to help mental illness. They're going to look at giving the services where there's a need.
Yeah.
And so when you're writing grants or you're trying to reapply, you have to say, look, we provide a unique service that isn't like everybody does it. And that's why you should fund us, because we're going to provide something that's missing. And so that's kind of what we look at, what's missing when we're tailoring different programs.
I was talking to a police officer in was it Bexar County Court? Yeah, and he was telling me how, like, payment for hope is good, but a lot of the homeless don't want to follow the rules, or because they have to be in the facility after a certain hour. Either that, or they have issues with people that go to court and they don't have a place to stay for the night, so they'll just sleep anywhere. They don't have a place to store their things. They'll bring a backpack or whatever. Like, they get, I guess, an overflow of things that they're trying to hold for them. So that's one of the issues he told me.
Yeah, and homelessness is a big problem. There are food trucks, and there's a lot of services, that'll give a meal. Here every morning there are people lined up that want just a sandwich meal that we provide, or that need some food because they're homeless. They need toiletries, just toothpastes. They just need a bathroom. So the issue is, yes, we can provide the service, but then it's like, what do we do about the homeless problem? To have the same person back and forth, and a lot of it has to do with mental illness, and mental disability. They can't hold down a job. They're veterans. They suffer from PTSD, or they're bipolar, or as much as they want to, they really can't, and they're not getting the treatment that they need. So there's definitely a large need for that.
So, I don't know, I think we've covered a lot.
Covered it all? Okay.
I think so.
Okay, well.
Is there anything, yeah, you mentioned the key players in the downtown area, Haven for Hope, and then the San Antonio Food Bank, right?
The food bank is a large, we get food from the food bank. The city also provides meals. You have Meals on Wheels, and those are some private organizations that provide provide assistance. San Antonio Police Department, the District Attorney's Office, some of those public agencies, but it's difficult for them to be social service agencies because they need to really manage the needs of the city, the streets, the water, electricity, law enforcement, keeping the streets safe, so they have to help manage the city and the infrastructure of the city, and sometimes don't have time or means to help with the social aspects. So they look to organizations such as Catholic Charities to say, we can't run an after-school care program here at the city, but we'll give you money if you can go and do it in the right way, so that that's a benefit to the city.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so do you feel like there's any? We already discussed, right? Any further need, like in the community? I know infrastructure is, like you said, it's improving, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've only been here 8 months.
Oh, okay. It's definitely improving, and a lot of efforts have been made to improve the infrastructure in the inner city and the poverty area. If you look around this area, most of the streets are very nicely paved, and there's curbs and sidewalks. There's a really nice park, just maybe about a mile down, with a trail, a walking trail by the lake, by the university. There's bike lanes. There's a police presence where they, and there's public housing just down the street from us also. There's still the issue of crime, and there's still the issue that they're working on, but there has been a lot of money put into revitalizing this area and making it look nice and helping, subsidize different projects and make sure that the streets are clean and that they're safe. And so the city has done a wonderful job, I'd say, in the last 10 to 15 years.
Yeah.
From when I was a child in this area, the streets sometimes weren't paved. There were potholes everywhere. There weren't curbs. There definitely weren't bike lanes. Crime was high. There's been a big change in that area, in this area.
All right. Well, I think that's it.
Okay. Okay. Well, great.